Hello everyone, and welcome to the DxD Tales. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was the primordial sage of chaos, a power beyond Credio. Issei x Rias Gremory x Serafall Leviathan, DxD. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Awakening Chaos. The dream always began the same way, with nothingness. Not darkness, for darkness required the concept of light to exist. This was the absence of everything, a void beyond comprehension. Then came awareness, formless yet conscious, expanding through the emptiness like ripples through water that had never existed. Issei Hyodo jolted awake, his breath caught in his throat and sweat beading his forehead. The digital clock beside his bed blinked 3:33 a.m., its red numerals casting an eerie glow across his otherwise darkened room. His third night in a row waking at precisely the same time. The coincidence might have troubled him if the remnants of the dream weren't still clinging to his consciousness, gossamer threads of something ancient and forgotten. "What the hell?" he muttered, passing a hand over his face. The sensation lingered, the feeling of being simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, boundless yet contained. Something shifted within him, a subtle, eerie alignment like tectonic plates sliding beneath the Earth's surface. Issei's eyes widened as his peripheral vision caught a strange distortion. The air around his outstretched hand seemed to bend, reality itself warping slightly before snapping back to normal. He blinked. Had he imagined it? The morning sun found him bleary-eyed and distracted, mechanically preparing for school. His mother called up the stairs, her voice carrying the practiced patience of someone who'd spent years trying to get a teenager moving in the morning. "Issei, you'll be late again." "Coming," he called back, shrugging into his Kuo Academy uniform. In the bathroom mirror, he studied his reflection. Brown hair disheveled despite his attempts to tame it, ordinary brown eyes that revealed nothing of the extraordinary dreams that had plagued him for weeks now. Nothing in his appearance suggested anything beyond an average 17-year-old boy. Yet something had changed. He could feel it in the marrow of his bones, in the spaces between heartbeats. Something was awakening. The walk to school took him past the old cherry tree at the intersection. Today, Issei stopped, transfixed. The petals drifted down in slow motion, each one leaving a faint trail of light visible only to him. He reached out, catching one in his palm. For an instant, he could feel every cell in the petal, understand its complete existence from seed to blossom to inevitable decay. "Hey, Earth," to Issei. A hand waved in front of his face, breaking his trance. Matsuda, one of his friends, stood before him with a bemused expression. Beside him, Motohama adjusted his glasses with a smirk. Spacing out again. "Don't tell me you were having perverted daydreams in the middle of the street," Motohama teased. Issei forced a laugh, closing his hand around the cherry blossom. "Just tired. Didn't sleep well." "Well, wake up. We've got important business today," Matsuda declared, slinging an arm around Issei's shoulders. "There. Ease a gap in the wall of the girls' locker room that the Kendo Club hasn't discovered yet." Once, such an announcement would have filled Issei with ridiculous enthusiasm. The trio had earned their reputation as the perverted trio through years of dedicated lechery. Today, though, the prospect left him strangely cold. "You guys go ahead," he said, surprising himself as much as his friends. I'd to catch up on some homework before class." Matsuda and Motohama exchanged shocked glances. "Who are you and what have you done with Issei?" Matsuda demanded, only half joking. Issei forced a grin. "Just trying not to fail, man. Catch you later." He left them staring after him, confused by this unexpected deviation from established character. Truthfully, Issei was just as confused. His priorities seemed to be shifting without his conscious decision, as though some other aspect of himself was gradually taking control. Kuo Academy loomed ahead, its architecture an elegant blend of traditional and modern design. The school had been all girls until recently, and despite the admission of male students, the gender ratio remained skewed. This had been a primary factor in Issei's decisio to enroll, a fact that now seemed trivial compared to the growing sense that some greater purpose awaited him. As he passed through the gates, a prickling sensation crawled up his spine. He was being watched. Instinctively, Issei turned toward the old school building, catching a glimpse of crimson hair in an upper window. Rias Gremory, the school idol and president of the Occult Research Club, was observing him with unusual intensity. Their eyes met across the distance, and something electric passed between them. Not attraction, though Rias was undeniably beautiful. This was recognition, the acknowledgement of something beyond ordinary perception. Then she stepped back from the window, disappearing into the shadows of the room. Issei stood frozen, heart thundering against his ribs. How had he sensed her presence? And why did he suddenly know, with absolute certainty, that Rias Gremory was not human? "You shouldn't stare at your betters, Hyodo," came a haughty voice from behind him. He turned to find Kiba Yuto, the school's Prince Charming, regarding him with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Girls swooned over Kiba's blonde hair and refined features, but in that moment, Issei saw beyond the handsome facade. Energy swirled around Kiba, dark, orderly patterns that spoke of contracts and bindings. "I wasn't staring," Issei replied, the words automatic while his mind processed this new perception. "Just thought I saw something." Kiba's eyes narrowed slightly. "The old school building is off limits except to club members." "I know that," Issei said, trying to focus on the conversation while his senses overwhelmed him with information he couldn't process. Kiba wasn't just different, he was bound to Rias Gremory through some complex arrangement of energy and obligation. The blonde studied him for a moment longer before offering a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, don't be late for class." As Kiba walked away, Issei noticed other students giving off similar auras. Most were the standard hues of ordinary humans, but scattered throughout were patterns and signatures that marked them as something more. How had he never noticed before? The day passed in a blur of lectures and bewildering sensory input. By afternoon, Issei had developed a pounding headache from the effort of filtering out the sudden awareness of energies and patterns around him. When the final bell rang, he practically bolted from the classroom, seeking solitude to process the changes happening to him. The park near his home offered a quiet retreat. Issei collapsed onto a bench, closing his eyes against the setting sun. The headache receded slightly as he focused on his breathing, trying to make sense of the day's revelations. "Excuse me, are you Issei Hyodo?" A soft feminine voice snapped him back to awareness. Before him stood a girl with long black hair and violet eyes, wearing a school uniform he didn't recognize. She fidgeted nervously, a blush spreading across her cheeks. "Yeah, that's me," he confirmed, sitting up straighter. "My name is Yuma Amano," she said, bowing slightly. "I've seen you passing by here a few times, and, well, would you go out with me?" The question caught him off guard. She was pretty, certainly, but something felt wrong. As he looked at her more carefully, Issei noticed a distortion around her, like static interference in the fabric of reality. Beneath her human appearance lurked something with wings and malice. Warning bells clanged in his mind, a primal instinct for self-preservation. "That's flattering," he said carefully. "But I don't think I know you well enough yet. Maybe we could start as friends." Frustration flickered across her features, quickly masked by a sweeter smile. "Of course. How about we meet here on Sunday? We could go to the mall and get to know each other better." Every instinct told him to refuse, but curiosity about his new perceptions won out. "Sure, that sounds good. Great, I'll see you Sunday at noon," she said, turning to leave with a wave that seemed too practiced to be genuine. As she walked away, Issei could have sworn he saw shadows unfurling from her back, the suggestion of wings not meant for human eyes to perceive. "What the hell am I getting myself into?" he murmured. The remainder of the week passed with increasing strangeness. Issei's dreams intensified, filled with swirling cosmos and voices speaking languages that had never existed on Earth but that he somehow understood. During waking hours, his perception of energies and patterns sharpened. He began categorizing the signatures he observed. Most students were ordinary humans, but others emanated distinct patterns he came to recognize as non-human. The members of the Occult Research Club were particularly distinctive. Rias Gremory and her vice president, Akano Himahima, radiated power structured in complex, hierarchical patterns. Kaneko Tuju, a petite first year with an expressionless face, concealed a feral energy beneath rigid control. And Kiba carried the unmistakable signature of a weapon bonded to his soul. By Sunday morning, Issei had accepted that either he was going Insa, nay, or the world was far more complex than he had ever imagined. Either way, he intended to get answers from the mysterious Yuma. He arrived at the park early, settling on the same bench where they had met. The day was perfect, clear blue skies and mild temperature, yet Issei couldn't shake a sense of impending danger. Yuma arrived precisely at noon, wearing a pink dress and carrying a small purse. Her human disguise was flawless. But Issei's enhanced perception detected the energy simmering beneath the surface, dark and chaotic, tinged with malevolent purpose. "You came," she exclaimed with apparent delight. "I was worried you might stand me up." "I said I'd be here," Issei replied, rising to greet her. He forced a smile while maintaining a careful awareness of her every movement. "Where would you like to go first?" The date progressed with superficial normalcy. They browsed shops, stopped for crepes at a street vendor, and made the kind of small talk typical of teenagers getting to know each other. Throughout, Issei remained vigilant, noting how Yuma's eyes occasionally darted to his chest, as though searching for something. As evening approached, she suggested they visit the fountain at the center of the park. Away from crowds, isolated among trees that had begun casting long shadows in the setting sun. "Perfect for an ambush. I had a wonderful time today," she said as they stood before the fountain. "Its waters catching the golden light of sunset." "Me too," Issei lied, bracing himself for whatever came next. Yuma stepped closer, her expression shifting to something predatory. "Issei, would you do something for me? To commemorate our first date?" "What's that?" he asked, muscles tensing in preparation. "Would you die for me?" The transformation was instantaneous. Her school uniform dissolved, replaced by straps of black leather that barely covered her now mature form. Great black feathered wings erupted from her back, spanning twice her height. Her violet eyes hardened into points of cruelty as she hovered above the ground. "My name is Rainer," she announced, her voice deeper and laced with contempt. "And I've been sent to eliminate you before you become a threat. Nothing personal, just following orders." She formed a spear of pink light in her hand, its energy crackling with deadly intent. "What are you talking about?" Issei demanded, backing away. "What threat?" "Your sacred gear," she replied, gesturing toward his chest. "The higher-ups have determined it's too dangerous to leave in human hands, especially with the stirrings we've detected recently." Issei had no idea what a sacred gear was, but he understood the immediate danger well enough. As Rainer hurled the light spear toward his heart, something within him responded, not conscious thought but primal instinct. Time seemed to slow. The light spear approached in fractional increments while Issei's perception accelerated. Deep within his being, something ancient stirred. A power that predated the concept of angels and devils, that existed before the universe had form or structure. His hand rose, not to block the spear but to grasp it. As his fingers closed around the shaft of light, the energy composing it destabilized, its structure unraveling at his touch. The spear disintegrated into motes of light that swirled around Issei's form before being absorbed into his skin. Rainer's expression transformed from smug certainty to shocked disbelief. "That's impossible. No human can touch light weapons, let alone." "I'm starting to think," Issei interrupted, his voice oddly calm despite the situation, "that I might not be entirely human." The statement surprised him as much as it did Rainer. The words had emerged from some deeper knowledge awakening within him. The fallen angel recovered quickly, her face contorting with rage. "It doesn't matter what you are. You're still going to die." She created two more spears, larger than the first, and launched them simultaneously. This time, Issei didn't try to catch them. Instead, he raised his hand and made a dismissive gesture. Reality rippled around the spears, and they veered off course, embedding themselves in the ground on either side of him. Rainer's wings faltered mid-beat. What are you?" Before Issei could respond, before he could even contemplate the question himself, a new energy signature approached rapidly. A crimson magic circle materialized nearby, and from it stepped Rias Gremory, her long red hair flowing like blood in the evening breeze. "That's quite enough," she declared, her voice ringing with authority. "This territory is under my protection, fallen angel. Your presence here is a violation of our agreement." Raynor hovered uncertainly, glancing between Rias and Issei. This doesn't concern the devil faction, Gremory. The boy possesses a dangerous sacred gear That's where you're wrong, Rias interrupted. Issei Hyodo is very much my concern. She turned to Issei, her teal eyes assessing him with new interest. Though I must admit, he's proving to be full of surprises. Issei stood frozen between them, processing Rias's casual reference to D. Evils and the confirmation that Raynor was indeed a fallen angel. His reality was unraveling by the second. Raynor seemed to calculate her odds, eyes darting from Rias to Issei and back again. Finally, she sneered. This isn't over. Whatever he is, he's too dangerous to be left alive. With a powerful beat of her wings, she shot upward and vanished into the darkening sky. Silence fell between Issei and Rias, broken only by the gentle splashing of the fountain. The mundane sound seemed absurd after what had just transpired. I suppose you have questions, Rias said finally, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Issei laughed, the sound edged with hysteria. That might be the understatement of the century. Are you really a devil? In answer, bat-like wings unfurled from Rias's back, their membranes translucent against the twilight. I am Rias Gremory, heir to the House of Gremory, one of the 72 pillars of the underworld. Issei took a deep breath, processing this I-N formation alongside everything else that had happened. And she was a fallen angel. Like, biblically fallen. Yes, though lower ranking, Rias confirmed. The fact that she was sent after you is concerning. She mentioned something called a sacred gear, Issei said, recalling Raynor's words. She thought I had one that was dangerous. Rias stepped closer, studying him with intense curiosity. Sacred gears are powerful artifacts created by the biblical God and bestowed upon humans. Some have the potential to change the balance of power between factions. She paused, her gaze growing more penetrating. But what you just did, deflecting her light spears, absorbing her energy, that's not typical of any sacred gear I'm familiar with. Issei looked down at his hands, still tingling with residual energy. I don't know what happened. It was instinct, like my body remembered something my mind has forgotten. Perhaps, Rias said thoughtfully. Or perhaps you're awakening to something that has been dormant within you. She extended her hand. Come with me, Issei Hyodo. The night has grown dangerous, and we have much to discuss. He hesitated, weighing his options. His life had irrevocably changed, that much was clear. Rias Gremory offered answers, but at what cost? Before he could decide, a new presence manifested, a swirling vortex of darkness that coalesced into a humanoid form. The figure that emerged wore clerical garments, but the energy surrounding him was corrupt, twisted beyond recognition. Well, the newcomer drawled, his eyes glinting with madness. A devil princess and the anomaly, all in one convenient location. Rias stiffened, moving protectively in front of Issei. Freed Selzen, I thought the church had excommunicated you. The man, Freed, offered a manic grin, his tongue lolling obscenely. They did. Turns out when you enjoy killing devils a little too much, those self-righteous bastards get squeamish. He drew a sword that glowed with whole-Y energy and a gun inscribed with scripture. But some employers appreciate enthusiasm in their work. Issei sensed the danger immediately. Unlike Raynor, who had targeted him specifically, this man radiated indiscriminate bloodlust. He would kill for the pleasure of it. Get behind me, Rias ordered, crimson energy gathering around her hands. But something in Issei rebelled at the thought of hiding. The power that had awakened earlier surged again, stronger this time. Knowledge flooded his consciousness. Battle strategies, energy manipulation techniques, the fundamental laws governing reality itself. No, he said, stepping forward to stand beside her. I don't know what's happening to me, but I'm not letting you face him alone. Freed laughed, the sound grating like broken glass. How sweet. The human wants to protect his devil mistress. I'll carve out your heart first so she can watch you die. He lunged forward with inhuman speed, holy sword arcing toward Issei's chest. Time slowed again in Issei's perception. He saw the trajectory of the blade, calculated its velocity and angle, and simply adjusted reality. The space between them stretched, causing Freed to slash at empty air. Simultaneously, Issei reached out with his awakening power, identifying the energy signature of the holy sword and introducing a discordant element. The blade's glow flickered as its blessed properties temporarily destabilized. Freed's momentum carried him forward, off balance and vulnerable. Issei stepped inside his guard and delivered a precise strike to the exorcist's solar plexus, a movement his body executed with practiced efficiency despite having no formal combat training. The rogue exorcist wheezed, doubling over. Recovered from her surprise, Rias seized the opportunity to launch a concentrated blast of destruction magic. The crimson energy struck Freed squarely in the chest, sending him flying backward into the fountain. Water exploded upward in a glittering cascade as the stone structure partially collapsed. Freed staggered to his feet, soaking wet and smoking from Rias's attack. His manic grin had transformed into a snarl of hatred. "What the fuck are you?" he demanded, glaring at Issei. "No human moves like that." Issei felt the answer rising from the depths of his being, words forming without conscious thought. "I am what existed before order and chaos were distinguished. Before light and darkness were separated." Power radiated from him in pulsating waves as reality warped around his form. "I am the primordial sage, the consciousness of chaos itself." The declaration hung in the air, surprising Issei as much as the others. The knowledge had emerged fully formed, as though a door had opened in his mind. Freed's face contorted with fear, an emotion that seemed foreign to his features. "Impossible," he whispered. Then, louder, "Impossible. Those are just legends." He raised his gun, firing blessed bullets in rapid succession. Issei raised his hand instinctively, and the bullets stopped midair, suspended in a field of distorted space. With a flick of his wrist, he reversed their momentum, sending them back toward Freed. The exorcist barely managed to dodge, one bullet grazing his shoulder and drawing a howl of pain. "This isn't over," he screamed, throwing down a vial that exploded into blinding light. When the glare faded, Freed was gone, leaving only blood droplets and the ruined fountain as evidence of the encounter. Silence descended once more. Issei turned to find Rias staring at him, her composed facade cracked by genuine astonishment. "The primordial sage," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "The consciousness of chaos itself." She shook her head slowly. "Do you understand what you just claimed to be?" Issei swallowed hard, the adrenaline of battle fading into confusion. "Not really," he admitted. The words just came out. Rias studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "In the most ancient texts, before recorded history, there are references to primordial forces that existed before creation. Entities of such power that they shaped the fundamental laws of reality." She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "The primordial sage of chaos is mentioned as the counterbalance to absolute order, the necessary entropy that prevents stagnation and allows for growth and change. You're saying I might be the reincarnation of some kind of cosmic force?" Issei asked, the concept so absurd he almost laughed. "I'm saying we need to understand what's awakening within you," Rias replied seriously, "because if even a fraction of those legends are true, every supernatural faction will either want to control you or destroy you." The weight of her words settled over Issei like a physical burden. He looked up at the night sky, stars emerging one by one. 24 hours ago, his greatest concern had been passing his next math test. Now he stood in the ruins of a fountain, discussing primordial cosmic forces with a devil princess. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Rias extended her hand again. "Now you come with me to the Occult Research Club. We begin your training and protection immediately." Her expression softened slightly. "And we try to understand exactly what you are becoming, Issei Hyodo." This time, he took her offered hand. Whatever awaited him, whatever he was or was becoming, facing it alone was no longer an option. As they stepped into Rias's magic circle, the air around them crackling with teleportation energy, Issei felt something fundamental shift within the universe, as though reality itself had recognized the return of a long-absent force. In the space between dimensions, as they traveled from the park to Kuo Academy, Issei heard whispers, countless voices speaking in languages both ancient and unborn. One phrase repeated across the cacophony, clear despite its impossibility. "The sage returns. Balance follows." The old school building materialized around them as the teleportation completed. Rias's peerage waited within, Akano, Kaneko, and Kiba, all watching with varying degrees of curiosity and worrying. SS as Issei arrived with their president. Everyone, Rias announced, her voice carrying the weight of momentous news, meet Issei Hyodo. His nature is complicated. Akano stepped forward, her violet eyes appraising him with new interest. My, she said, her voice a silken purr that belied the sharp assessment in her gaze. You've brought us something quite unusual, haven't you, President? Kaneko simply stared, her small nose twitching as though scenting something beyond ordinary perception. Not human, she stated flatly. Not devil, not angel. Her golden eyes narrowed. Not anything I recognize. Kiba maintained his distance, one hand resting casually near where his sword would manifest. Is he a threat? He asked directly. Not to us, Rias assured them, though uncertainty colored her tone. At least, I don't believe so. Issei looked around the room, at these supernatural beings discussing him as though he were a curious specimen, and felt a hysterical laugh building in his chest. 24 hours ago, he said, the words spilling out, my biggest worry was whether I'd ever get a girlfriend. Now I've been attacked by a fallen angel, fought alongside a devil, and D apparently might be the reincarnation of some cosmic force of chaos. So if anyone has any idea what's happening to me, I'd really appreciate some straight answers. His outburst was met with momentary silence, then, surprisingly, a soft laugh from Akano. I like him, she declared, moving closer to study Issei more carefully. He's honest, at least. Rias sighed, gesturing toward an ornate sofa. Sit down, Issei. This will take some time to explain. As Issei sank into the cushions, Rias began pacing, organizing her thoughts. The supernatural world is divided into several major factions: devils, angels, fallen angels, and various mythological pantheons. For millennia, these groups have maintained an uneasy balance, particularly after the Great War nearly destroyed all sides. She paused, gauging his reaction. Issei nodded for her to continue. Humans with special abilities or artifacts, sacred gears, often become caught in factional disputes. We believed you possessed such a power, which is why I've been observing you. Her expression grew more serious. But what you demonstrated tonight goes beyond any sacred gear I've encountered. Your ability to manipulate reality itself, to neutralize holy energy, to move with combat precision despite no training. And then there's what you said, Akano interjected, leaning forward with intense curiosity. The primordial sage of chaos. Even among devils, that name is rarely spoken. Kaneko nodded solemnly. Old power. Dangerous power. I don't understand, Issei said, frustration evident in his voice. If I'm this powerful ancient whatever, why have I spent 17 years as a completely ordinary, somewhat perverted high school student? Why now? Why me? Rias stopped her pacing, fixing him with a penetrating gaze. Reincarnation is complex. Sometimes the soul remembers its past existence immediately, sometimes gradually, sometimes only when triggered by specific circumstances. Like being attacked by a fallen angel, Kiba suggested. Precisely. Rias agreed. The attempt on your life may have catalyzed an awakening process that was already underway. Issei ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed by the implications. So what happens now? Do I just become this primordial sage completely? Do I lose myself? The question hung heavy in the air. None of them, not even Rias with her extensive supernatural knowledge, had a definitive answer. I don't know, she admitted finally. But I intend to help you find out. She approached, kneeling before him to meet his eyes directly. Issei Hyodo, I offer you my protection and resources. In return, I ask for your allegiance to the House of Gremory. Akano raised an eyebrow. President, are you planning to add him to your peerage? Can a being of his nature even be bound by evil pieces? Rias hesitated. That remains to be seen. For now, I propose a formal alliance rather than servitude. Issei considered the offer. His life had irrevocably changed, that much was certain. He needed allies who understood the supernatural world, and despite her obvious self-interest, Rias seemed genuinely concerned for his well-being. I accept your protection, he said carefully. And I'll work with you to understand what's happening to me. But I need to maintain my independence. Whatever I'm becoming, I need the freedom to discover it on my own terms. A smile curved Rias's lips, appreciation for his foresight rather than offense at his conditions. Agreed. We'll formalize our arrangement tomorrow. She rose gracefully. For tonight, you should rest. Akeno will escort you home and establish protective barriers around your residence. Akeno stepped forward, offering a slight bow that did nothing to diminish the mischievous glint in her eyes. It would be my pleasure to ensure your safety, Issei-kun. As they prepared to leave, Rias called after them, Issei. When he turned, her expression had grown solemn once more. The power awakening within you, it changes everything. Not just for you, but potentially for the balance between all factions. Be careful whom you trust. The warning followed him into the night, a reminder that his ordinary life was now irrevocably lost. Walking beside Akeno through the darkened campus, Issei watched as she casually manipulated lightning between her fingertips, the energy casting shifting patterns across her beautiful face. Can I ask you something? He ventured. She smiled, the expression both inviting and guarded. Of course. Do you believe what Rias said, that I could be this primordial sage? Akeno considered the question, her playful demeanor giving way to thoughtfulness. I believe power recognizes power, she said finally. And when I look at you, Issei-kun, I see something ancient. Chi stirring beneath the surface, something that makes even my devil instincts tremble. She paused, lightning dancing between her fingers. So yes, I believe it's possible. The question is, do you? Issei looked up at the night sky. Stars twinkling in patterns he suddenly realized he could read like a language. Knowledge continued to unfold within him, memories of a time before time, understanding of forces beyond comprehension. I'm beginning to, he admitted softly. As they walked, neither noticed the figure watching from a nearby rooftop, a woman with long raven hair and ice-blue eyes that gleamed with interest. Serafall Leviathan, one of the 4 Satan lords of the underworld, observed the pair with growing fascination. So the rumors were true, she murmured to herself. The primordial sage returns. A smile curved her lips, equal parts anticipation and concern. How very, very interesting. The chess game of supernatural factions had just acquired a wild card, one that might reshape the board entirely. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Crimson Convergence. Cosmic awareness came to Issei in fragments, like shards of a broken mirror gradually reassembling. Each night since his encounter with Rainer, his dreams had grown more vivid, less dreams than memories of an existence predating creation itself. Tonight he drifted through primordial darkness, consciousness without form, bare. Ing witness to the first separation of void and matter. He watched stars coalesce from dust, galaxies spiral into being, planets form and crumble. Time meant nothing here. A millennium passed in an eye blink, a second stretched to infinity. You remember now, asterisk. The voice resonated not through sound but through the fabric of existence itself. Issei turned, or rather, his awareness shifted, toward the source. A figure materialized from the cosmic backdrop, humanoid yet not, its form constantly shifting between states of matter and energy. Where a face might be, there existed only swirling patterns of light and darkness. We are one and many, asterisk the entity continued. The balance keeper. The necessary chaos that prevents order from calcifying into eternal stagnation. Asterisk. Who are you? Issei asked, though no words were spoken. I am you, as you are me. The consciousness of primal chaos, fragmented across existence, now converging once more. Asterisk. Why now? Why me? The balance shifts. Order ascends unchecked. We awaken when needed. Asterisk. Before Issei could ask more, the cosmic vista shattered like glass. He bolted upright in his bed, sweat-soaked sheets tangled around him. Dawn light filtered through his curtains, painting geometric patterns across his bedroom floor. Balance, he murmured, the dream already fading from conscious memory while settling deeper into his being. The clock rang, D6:30 a.m., 30 minutes before his alarm. Knowing further sleep was impossible, Issei dragged himself to the shower. As water cascaded over his shoulders, he practiced the mental exercises Rias had taught him yesterday, attempting to organize his rapidly expanding awareness. 3 days had passed since the fountain incident. 3 days of crash course education in the supernatural world, of Poe's awakening faster than he could control them, of trying to maintain the facade of normal high school student while secretly meeting with devils after class. His parents remained oblivious, their Our sections gently altered by Akino's magic to explain away his increasingly erratic behavior. A necessary precaution, Rias had explained. Human families often became targets when their children entered the supernatural world. Issei dressed for school methodically, his movements automatic while his mind processed multiple layers of reality simultaneously. He could see the structural integrity of his bedroom walls, calculate the precise tension in the threads of his uniform, and perceive the lingering magical signatures from Akino's protective barriers, all without conscious effort. Issei. Breakfast. His mother called from downstairs. Coming, he replied, grabbing his school bag. Downstairs, his parents sat at the kitchen table, discussing mundane matters, bills, neighborhood gossip, plans for the weekend. Their normality struck Issei as both precious and fragile. "You're up early," his father remarked, peering over his newspaper. Issei shrugged, helping himself to rice and fish. "Couldn't sleep. School stress?" his mother asked, concern furrowing her brow. "Something like that." The half-truth came easily. How could he explain that he was remembering an existence as a cosmic force predating creation? His mother patted his hand. "Well, don't worry too much. You've always managed to pull through when it counts." The simple gesture of maternal affection grounded him, temporarily quieting the cosmic awareness surging through his consciousness. These connections, family, friendship, humanity, anchored him to his current existence. Without them, he might drift entirely into the void of his primordial memories. "Thanks, Mom," he said, meaning it more deeply than she could know. The walk to school provided time to practice another skill Rias had emphasized, selective perception. Learning to filter the overwhelming sensory input was essential if he hoped to function in everyday society. Without control, he would perceive everything from the quantum vibrations of Ms. to the emotional states of everyone around him. Kuo Academy appeared unchanged on the surface, students chatting in clusters across the courtyard, teachers hurrying to morning meetings. Yet Issei now perceived the layered enchantments woven throughout the campus: boundary fields, detection wards, protective barriers. The school served as neutral territory for multiple supernatural factions, its mundane appearance a carefully maintained illusion. "Yo, Issei," Matsuda called, waving from near the main entrance. Beside him, Motohama adjusted his glasses with typical precision. Issei joined his friends, grateful for their uncomplicated presence. "Morning. You disappeared after class yesterday," Motohama observed, scrutinizing him. "Don't tell me you've found a girlfriend and aren't sharing details." Matsuda gasped dramatically. Betrayal. The perverted trio's sacred pact demands full disclosure of all romantic developments. Issei laughed despite himself. "Nothing like that. Just been helping out with a club." "A club?" Matsuda's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Which club?" Before Issei could fabricate a plausible lie, salvation arrived in the form of Kiba Yuto, approaching with his usual graceful stride. "Good morning, Hyodo-kun," the blonde knight greeted. "President Rias asked me to remind you about our meeting after school today." Matsuda and Motohama froze, jaws dropping in perfect synchronization. "Your meeting with Rias Gremory," Motohama sputtered, adjusting his glasses so violently they nearly flew off his face. "The Rias Gremory," Matsuda added unnecessarily, voice climbing an octave. Kiba smiled pleasantly. "Hyodo-kun has been assisting the Occult Research Club with a special project." The implications hit Issei's friends like a physical blow. Their expressions transformed from shock to betrayal to awestruck envy in rapid succession. "The Occult Research Club," Matsuda whispered reverently. "With all those beautiful women." "Akino Himahima," Motohama added, a dreamy quality entering his voice. 995890. Issei winced at his friend's habitual measurement taking. "It's not what you think." "We totally understand," Matsuda interrupted, slinging an arm around Issei's shoulders. "You've ascended to a realm we mere mortals can only dream of. Just remember us when you're surrounded by goddesses," Motohama added solemnly. Kiba cleared his throat delicately. "We should head to class before the bell rings." Saved by the night once again, Issei extracted himself from his friend's clutches with promises to talk later. As they walked toward the school building, he glanced at Kiba. "Thanks for the rescue." The blonde offered a slight smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "President's orders. We need to maintain your Cover while transitioning you into our world. Issei noted the careful phrasing. Not their world, but our world, an assumption of his eventual integration into Devil society that didn't align with his emerging understanding of his true nature. About that, he began. I've been having more dreams, memories, I think, about what I really am. Kiba's casual demeanor shifted subtly, his posture straightening. President Rias will want to hear about that directly. For now, focus on appearing normal. We'll discuss everything after school. With that, he departed for his own classroom, leaving Issei to ponder the complex politics he'd stumbled into. The devils wanted him as an ally, perhaps eventually as a servant through Rias's peerage system. Yet the more he remembered of his primordial existence, the more certain he became that such a bond would be impossible. The consciousness of chaos itself could not be bound to any single faction. Classes dragged interminably. Issei found it easily difficult to focus on mathematical equations when he could perceive the fundamental patterns underlying all of reality. History lessons seemed quaint when fragments of memory showed him civilizations that had risen and fallen before humans walked the earth. By afternoon, his head throbbed with the effort of containing his expanding awareness. When the final bell rang, he made his way to the old school building with relief. At least there, he needn't pretend to be ordinary. The occult research club room remained as he remembered: Gothic furnishings, occult symbols, crimson curtains, LTERING, the sunlight into blood-hued patterns across the floor. Rias sat behind her ornate desk, while Akino prepared tea with graceful precision. Kaneko occupied a corner sofa, methodically consuming a box of sweets. Kiba had taken up position near the window, vigilant as always. "Ah, Issei," Rias greeted, setting aside a stack of papers. Right on time, he sank into the offered chair, gratefully accepting the tea Akino provided. "Thank you. You appear strained," Rias observed, studying him with those penetrating teal eyes. "Has something changed?" "Everything keeps changing," Issei admitted. "My awareness, my dreams, my understanding of what I am. It's happening faster than I can process." Rias exchanged glances with Akino, some silent communication passing between them. "Tell me about these dreams." Issei described the cosmic visions, the formless entity claiming to be both him and something greater, the warnings about balance. As he spoke, the room grew still, even Kaneko pausing her methodical consumption of sweets to listen. When he finished, Rias leaned back, fingers steepled beneath her chin. "The implications are significant." "Understatement of the century," Akino murmured, setting down her teapot. "If Issei truly embodies the primordial sage of chaos, the power balance between all factions could shift dramatically. Which explains why the fallen angels targeted him," Kiba added. "They must have sensed the awakening beginning." Kaneko spoke without looking up from her dessert. "Others will come, stronger ones." The simple statement carried ominous weight, causing a momentary silence. "You mentioned balance," Rias said finally, returning to Issei's account. "That order ascends unchecked. What do you think that means?" Issei shook his head. "I don't know exactly, but there's something wrong in the fabric of reality. Like a scale tipping too far in one direction." "Heaven's system," Akino suggested, her usual playfulness absent. "After God's death, the angels implemented stricter protocols to maintain divine power. Perhaps that's creating imbalance." Rias nodded thoughtfully. "Or it could be related to the artificial sacred gears being developed by certain factions. Technology attempting to replicate divine creation." "Whatever it is," Issei interjected, "I'm apparently waking up to counterbalance it. Which brings me to the main question: what happens now?" Rias straightened, her demeanor shifting to that of a noble devil rather than a high school club president. "As discussed previously, I believe the most prudent course is to bring you formally into my peerage. As my servant, you would receive the protection of House Gremory while developing your abilities in a structured environment." The offer was generous by devil standards. Rias's family held significant influence in the underworld, her protection was valuable. Yet something within Issei rebelled at the very concept. "I appreciate the offer," he said carefully, "but I'm not sure it's possible. From what I'm remembering, my nature may be incompatible with the evil peace system." "There's only one way to find out," Rias replied, opening a drawer to reveal a crimson chess piece, a pawn. glowing with supernatural energy. If you're willing, we can attempt the ritual tonight. Issei hesitated, sensing a crossroads. Becoming part of Rias's peerage would provide immediate benefits: training, protection, belonging. Yet it might also bind his awakening power in ways he couldn't predict. Let's try, he decided finally. But if it doesn't work, then we'll find another arrangement. Rias assured him. My interest is in helping you develop safely, Issei. The form that takes is secondary. Her sincerity seemed genuine, though Issei had learned about devil politics to recognize the ambition behind her words. Having the Primordial Sage as an ally would elevate House Gremory's standing considerably. Thank you, he said simply. Rias smiled, the expression warming her aristocratic features. Don't thank me yet. First, we need to complete your basic training. Kiba will handle physical combat, Akeno magical theory, and Kaneko will assist with stamina and strength conditioning. When do we start? Issei asked. Right now, Kiba answered, manifesting a training sword from thin air. Beginning with proper stance and movement fundamentals. The next 3 hours passed in a grueling introduction to supernatural combat. Kiba proved a demanding but effective instructor, drilling Issei through basic sword forms and evasive maneuvers. The knight's speed was breathtaking. His movements so swift they blurred even to Issei's enhanced perception. Don't just react, Kiba instructed after disarming Issei for the 12th time. Anticipate. Your awareness exceeds human limitations, use it. Issei nodded, trying again. This time, instead of focusing on Kiba's visible movements, he expanded his perception to include the knight's energy signature. The subtle shifts in air currents preceding each attack, the minute tensing of muscles telegraphing intent. When Kiba lunged, Issei was already moving, not away but at an angle, disrupting the knight's perfect trajectory. Their training swords met with a crack, neither giving ground. Better, Kiba acknowledged, disengaging. Again. By the time they finished, Issei's muscles screamed with fatigue. But a new understanding had begun to form. His body remembered combat forms he'd never consciously learned, techniques from civilizations long turned to dust. The knowledge emerged organically when needed. Muscle memory from lives he'd never lived. Akeno's magical theory session proved equally challenging, though in different ways. While Issei could manipulate reality instinctively, understanding the structured principles of devil magic required a complete paradigm shift. Demonic power flows from imagination given form through will, Akeno explained, demonstrating by creating a perfect sphere of lightning between her palms. The stronger your visualization and intent, the more powerful the result. Issei attempted to replicate her demonstration, focusing on the image of energy between his hands. Unlike Akeno's controlled lightning, what manifested was a swirling vortex of chaotic energy, neither lightning nor fire nor ice, but something more fundamental. The power pulsed with potential, as though it could become anything or nothing with equal ease. Fascinating, Akeno murmured, leaning closer to examine the phenomenon. Your energy signature doesn't conform to any established magical system. It's primal. Is that bad? Issei asked, maintaining the swirling vortex with effort. Not bad, she corrected, just different. You're not creating energy so much as revealing what already exists in a purer form. Her violet eyes gleamed with scholarly interest. I suspect conventional magical theory won't apply to your abilities. We'll need to develop a unique training regimen. By the time Kaneko took over for physical conditioning, Issei was mentally exhausted. The petite girl's regimen proved brutally effective. Endless push-ups, squats, and sprints that would have killed an ordinary human. When he collapsed after the 5th set, convinced his body would give out, something shifted within him. Energy flowed from an inexhaustible source, rejuvenating tired muscles, accelerating cellular repair. Issei rose, surprised to find the fatigue receding like an outgoing tide. Kaneko observed this transformation with her usual impassive expression. Self-regeneration, she noted. Useful. Quote, I didn't know I could do that, Issei admitted, examining his hands as the torn skin of his palms knitted before his eyes. Still learning, Kaneko replied with a shrug. Again, 20 more. By evening, Issei had gained fundamental understanding of his physical capabilities, magical potential, and combative instincts. While still novice level compared to Rias's experienced peerage, His progress in a single day exceeded what most supernatural beings achieved in years. They reconvened in the club room as night fell. Rias had prepared a complex magical circle, runes and sigils glowing with crimson energy across the floor. The reincarnation ritual is typically performed on the recently deceased, she explained, but exceptions exist for willing participants with active sacred gears or unique spiritual qualities. You mean you usually wait until someone's dying before offering the devil deal? Issei asked, only half joking. Rias smiled thinly. Devils are opportunists by nature. But in your case, the circumstances are exceptional. The ritual preparation continued as Akeno arranged black candles at precise intervals around the circle. While Kiba and Kaneko took positions at cardinal points, apparently serving as witnesses or anchors for the complex spell. Remove your shirt and lie in the center, Rias instructed, holding the glowing pawn piece. The evil piece must make direct contact with your spiritual core. Issei complied, lying back against the cool floor. The magical circle hummed beneath him, energy tingling against his skin. Rias knelt beside him, her crimson hair falling forward like a curtain as she placed the pawn piece on his bare chest. I, Rias Gremory, heir to the house of Gremory, call upon the ancient compact of the 72 pillars, she intoned, her voice resonating with power. By my authority as king, I bind this soul to my service, to be reborn as devil and vassal. The pawn piece began to sink into Issei's chest, magic flaring around the point of contact. For a moment, it seemed the ritual would proceed normally, then reality itself shuddered in protest. Chaotic energy erupted from Issei's body, shattering the carefully constructed magical circle. The pawn piece ejected violently, flying across the room with such force it embedded in the stone wall. Issei arched off the floor as competing energies warred within him, the structured magic of the evil piece system versus the primordial chaos of his awakening nature. Rias, Akeno called in alarm, moving to stabilize the collapsing spell. I'm all right, Rias assured them, though her pale complexion suggested otherwise. She stared at Issei with a mixture of fascination and concern. But it seems your suspicion was correct. The evil piece rejected him, or rather, his nature rejected the evil piece. Issei sat up slowly, cosmic awareness flooding through him more powerfully than before, as though the failed ritual had inadvertently accelerated his awakening. I'm sorry, he offered, genuinely regretful for the complication. Rias shook her head, recovering her composure. No apology needed. This is valuable information, if unexpected. She extracted the pawn piece from the wall, examining it with scholarly interest. The piece itself is undamaged but completely discharged of energy. I've never seen anything like it. What does this mean for our arrangement? Issei asked, concerned about losing Rias's protection. She considered for a moment before answering. We proceed as planned, but as allies rather than through a master-servant bond. You'll continue training with us, and we'll help you understand your awakening powers. In exchange, you'll assist the Occult Research Club with our duties. Relief washed through him. Thank you, Rias. Don't thank me yet, she replied with a slight smile. We have a stray devil hunt scheduled tonight. Consider it your first official assignment, and a practical test of your combat training. An hour later, Issei found himself approaching an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Kuo, walking alongside Rias's peerage through the moonlit night. Kiba had briefed him on our target, a devil who had killed her master and gone rogue, descending into madness and predatory behavior as her powers corrupted without proper guidance. Stray devils often lose their humanoid form as their magic grows unstable. The knight explained, manifesting his sword as they neared the warehouse. They become monstrous, driven by hunger and base instincts. Our job is extermination, Kaneko added flatly. Cracking her knuckles, Rias held up a hand, halting their advance. Visor has killed 6 humans in the past week. As the devil overseeing this territory, it's my responsibility to eliminate the threat. She turned to Issei. Observe first. Intervene only if absolutely necessary. This is an opportunity for you to witness how a proper devil peerage functions in combat. Issei nodded, extending his senses toward the warehouse. The stray devil's energy signature pulsed within, chaotic, fragmented, corrupted by madness and unchecked power. Beneath the taint, he perceived the original pattern of devil energy. Now twisted almost beyond recognition. They entered the warehouse silently, spreading out in a practiced formation. The interior lay in darkness, but Issei's enhanced vision detected movement among the rusted machinery and collapsed shelving. "I smell something bad," Kaneko murmured, her nose wrinkling in disgust. "I smell something delicious," came a distorted feminine voice from the shadows. "Fresh meat wandering into my web." The stray devil emerged from hiding, a grotesque hybrid of woman and monster. Her upper body remained humanoid, naked female torso with long black hair framing a face that might once have been beautiful. Below the waist, however, she had transformed into a massive bestial form with 4 thick legs ending in razor-sharp claws. Blood dripped from misshapen jaws extending from her abdomen. "Visor," Rias addressed the creature calmly. "You have violated the laws of the underworld by killing your master and fleeing service. You have further transgressed by hunting in my territory without permission. Your sentence is death." The stray devil laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally through the warehouse. "Little Gremory princess, playing at judgment." Her inhuman eyes shifted to Issei. "And you've brought a new toy. How thoughtful. I'll devour him while you watch." "Yuto," Rias commanded. Kiba moved with blinding speed, darting forward in a zigzag pattern that left afterimages in his wake. The stray devil lashed out with clawed appendages, but struck only air as the knight danced between attacks. "Night piece," Rias explained to Issei. "Enhanced speed and agility." Kiba's sword flashed, severing 2 of the monster's legs in a single precise arc. Visor howled in pain and rage, acid spittle spraying from her secondary jaws. "Kaneko," Rias continued. The petite girl stepped forward, directly into the path of the acid spray. Instead of dodging, she simply raised her arms in a defensive posture. The caustic liquid splashed against her uniform, eating through fabric but barely marring the skin beneath. "Rook piece," Rias noted. "Enhanced strength and defensive capabilities." With frightening casualness, Echo grasped one of the warehouse's support columns and ripped it free, wielding the steel beam like a baseball bat. She swung with devastating force, connecting squarely with Visor's torso and sending the stray devil crashing through several rows of shelving. "Akeno," Rias concluded. The vice president stepped forward, electricity crackling around her form as her expression shifted to one of sadistic pleasure. "Oh my, still conscious. How resilient. This will be enjoyable." She raised her hands, conjuring a massive lightning bolt that illuminated the entire warehouse in stark white light. The thunderclap that followed rattled the building's foundation as electrical energy coursed through Visor's monstrous form, eliciting screams of agony. "Queen piece," Rias explained, seemingly undisturbed by the torture unfolding before them. "Enhanced attributes of all other pieces combined." Akeno laughed softly, conjuring another lightning bolt. "More. You can take more, can't you?" The sadistic edge in her voice had deepened, her eyes gleaming with pleasure at Visor's suffering. "That's enough, Akeno," Rias called, stepping forward as the lightning subsided. She approached the smoking, twitching form of the stray devil. "Any last words before judgment, Visor?" The creature raised her head, hatred burning in her inhuman eyes. "Kill me if you must, princess. But others will come. The old barriers weaken. Ancient things stir." Her gaze shifted to Issei, a flash of recognition crossing her distorted features. "The chaos returns." Rias frowned at this unexpected prophecy. "Power of destruction," she intoned, crimson energy gathering around her outstretched hand. The concentrated magic struck Visor directly, disintegrating her physical form in a matter of seconds. "Nothing remained but a scorch mark on the concrete floor. And that," Rias concluded, turning back to Issei, "is how a devil peerage handles threats within their territory." Issei absorbed the demonstration with mixed emotions. The efficiency of their coordinated attack impressed him, but the casual cruelty, particularly Akeno's obvious enjoyment of inflicting pain, unsettled the human part of him. Yet another part, the awakening cosmic consciousness, viewed the encounter with detached understanding. Devils were creatures of darkness by nature, cruelty was intrinsic to their being. "You're troubled," Rias observed, studying his expression. "Visor recognized what I am," Issei said, avoiding the more complicated ethical question. "She mentioned ancient things stirring, old barriers weakening." Rias nodded. "Stray devils sometimes develop erratic precognitive abilities as their powers destabilize. It's rarely coherent, but occasionally contains fragments of truth. Like a broken clock being right twice a day, Akino added. Rejoining them with her usual composed demeanor, all traces of sadistic pleasure now hidden behind a polite smile. We should return to school, Kiba suggested, cleaning his blade before dismissing it. The barrier won't mask our presence here indefinitely. They departed the warehouse, making their way back toward Kuo Academy through deserted streets. Issei walked slightly apart from the others, processing everything he'd witnessed. The stark reality of supernatural combat, the casual application of lethal force, the political complexities underlying it all. His world had expanded beyond recognition in less than a week. At the school gates, Rias paused. Tomorrow we'll begin more specialized training focused on your unique abilities, Issei. For tonight, rest and reflect on what you've learned. Thank you for including me, he said sincerely. It was educational. A smile curved her lips. You're part of our world now, even if not officially part of my peerage. Get used to it. As the others departed, Akino lingered behind. Walk you home, she offered. Issei nodded, surprised but not displeased by the suggestion. They walked in comfortable silence for several blocks before Akino spoke again. You were disturbed by my behavior during the battle, she stated rather than asked. I was surprised, Issei admitted carefully. Akino laughed softly. No need for diplomacy. I'm aware of my sadistic tendencies. She glanced at him sideways. Does it frighten you? Not frighten, exactly, he replied honestly. More like, I'm trying to understand the different facets of this new world. Where I fit into it. And where do you think that is? She asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Issei considered the question as they walked beneath streetlights casting pools of illumination in the darkness. I don't know yet. Not fully devil, obviously. Not angel or fallen. Not entirely human anymore, either. Perhaps you transcend such categories, Akino suggested. The primordial sage existed before our factions were conceived, after all. The observation struck Issei as profoundly insightful. That's exactly it. I feel connected to all sides but bound to none. Akino nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer. As they approached his house, she paused beneath a cherry tree, its blossoms silvered by moonlight. May I ask you something personal, Issei-kun? Of course. These dreams, these memories of your primordial existence, do they bring you peace or distress? The question caught him off guard with its perceptiveness. Both, he admitted after a moment's reflection. There's peace in understanding my purpose, but distress in recognizing how far I am from fulfilling it. Purpose, Akino echoed thoughtfully. An interesting concept for a being of chaos. Not all chaos is purposeless, Issei explained, surprising himself with the certainty behind the words. Without change, without entropy, creation stagnates. Perfect order is perfect stasis, essentially death. He glanced up at the night sky, stars twinkling in patterns only he could read. Chaos is necessary for growth, for evolution, for life itself. Akino studied him with newfound interest. When you speak that way, you sound different. Older, wiser. A small smile played at her lips. It's rather attractive. Heat rose to Issei's face at the unexpected compliment. Despite cosmic awareness and primordial memories, he remained in many ways a 17-year-old boy, awkward around beautiful women. Akino laughed softly at his embarrassment. Your dual nature is fascinating. Issei-kun. Divine and human, ancient and adolescent. She stepped closer, her scent, thunderstorms and sweet plum blossoms, enveloping him. I look forward to exploring all facets of your being. Before he could respond to the suggestive comment, she leaned forward and pressed a light kiss to his cheek. Sleep well, Chaos Sage, she murmured, stepping back into a magic circle that materialized beneath her feet. In a flash of light, she vanished, leaving Issei touching his cheek in stunned silence. That night, his dreams took a different turn. Instead of cosmic voids and primordial forces, he found himself standing in a vast library that extended beyond sight in all directions. Books filled endless shelves, some ancient and crumbling, others appearing brand new. Some composed of materials he couldn't identify. The accumulated knowledge of all existence, came that now familiar voice, though no entity appeared. Yours to access as you awaken. Issei approached the nearest shelf. drawn to a volume bound in what appeared to be crimson leather. As his fingers brushed the spine, images flooded his mind. The Gremory family history, their powers and politics, their alliances and enemies. Information about Rias specifically filled his awareness. Her childhood, her education, her dreams and fears, particularly her impending arranged marriage to Rias Gremory. He withdrew his hand, startled by the invasion of such personal knowledge. I shouldn't know these things without her consent. Knowledge itself is neutral, the voice replied. Your use of it determines its moral value. Issei moved to another section, finding books seemingly composed of solidified lightning. These contained the history of fallen angels, from their original descent to their current political structure. One volume pulsed with particular intensity, and when he touched it, he received detailed information about Rainer, her original angelic name, her reasons for falling. The orders she had been following in attempting to kill him. She was just a pawn, he murmured, absorbing the knowledge. The Gregory leadership suspected my awakening but weren't certain. They sent her to eliminate the possibility rather than risk confirmation. The politics of younger beings, the voice commented with detached amusement. So focused on control and dominance. Issei continued exploring, discovering information about sacred gears, magical systems, supernatural races, cosmic entities, knowledge encompassing the entirety of existence. Hours seemed to pass as he wandered through the infinite library, absorbing fragments of understanding that would take lifetimes to fully comprehend. Eventually, he came to a sealed section, heavy chains of energy binding the shelves closed. What's in there? He asked. Your complete memory, the voice answered. The full consciousness of the primordial sage. It returns gradually to prevent your human vessel from being overwhelmed. When will I remember everything? Quote, when balance requires it, when you are ready, when chaos must fully awaken to counter perfect order. Issei awoke with the library's knowledge integrated in to his consciousness, not all of it accessible at once, but available when needed, like files stored in a cosmic database. He understood now why fallen angels had targeted him, why devils sought his alliance. Why angels would soon take notice. The primordial sage represented a power outside their Trinitarian system, a wild card in the careful balance maintained since the Great War. His awakening signaled change on a fundamental level, perhaps even threatening the status quo that had preserved an uneasy peace for millennia. Sunrise found him sitting cross-legged on his bedroom floor, organizing his expanded awareness into manageable partitions. Human consciousness existed alongside cosmic knowledge, separated by barriers he could now control. This compartmentalization would allow him to function in everyday society while accessing deeper wisdom when needed. His phone chimed with a message from Rias. Training begins at 10. Wear comfortable clothes. Bring swimwear. Curious about the unusual instruction, Issei prepared for the day with renewed purpose. Whatever this training entailed, he would embrace it fully. Understanding his nature, and controlling the power that came with it, was essential if he hoped to navigate the supernatural world without becoming its pawn or its destroyer. The meeting location proved to be a private estate in the mountains outside Kuo, a traditional Japanese compound complete with manicured gardens, koi ponds, and hot springs. Rias waited at the entrance, dressed casually in shorts and a t-shirt rather than her school uniform. Welcome to the Gremory family retreat, she greeted him. We maintain properties throughout Japan for various purposes. This one is specifically designed for training and recovery. Issei admired the serene landscape, noting the protective barriers woven throughout the grounds, significantly stronger than those at school. It's beautiful and isolated, Rias added practically. You can practice your abilities without concern for collateral damage or unwanted observation. She led him through the compound to an open courtyard where Akino waited, similarly dressed in casual attire. The vice president smiled warmly at Issei's arrival. Good morning, Issei-kun. Sleep well. The knowing gleam in her eyes suggested she referred to their parting interaction rather than his actual rest. Issei felt heat rise to his face again. Well enough, he managed. Had some interesting dreams. Oh, Akino's eyebrow arched with interest. Do tell. Before he could respond, Rias cleared her throat. Let's focus on the training agenda. Hiba and Kaneko are handling other assignments today, so we'll concentrate on magical theory and energy manipulation. She gestured to several targets set up across the Cower. Yard, conventional archery targets alongside more unusual objects including steel plates, water basins, and what appeared to be small contained fires. Yesterday we discovered your energy doesn't conform to standard devil magic, Rias explained. Today we'll explore exactly what you can do with it. Starting with basic projection, Akeno added, stepping forward. Focus your awareness on the center of your being, where energy gathers naturally. Issei closed his eyes, following her instruction. The chaotic energy swirled within him like a contained storm, vibrant and alive. Unlike the structured power devils wielded, his existed in a constant state of flux, transforming, adapting, becoming. Now extend that energy outward, Akeno continued, her voice guiding him through the process. Direct it toward the first target. Don't try to shape it yet, just release it. Issei extended his hand, allowing the energy to flow through his arm and fingertips. What emerged was a stream of prismatic power, shifting through colors and states as it traveled, solid to liquid to gas to plasma and back again, never settling into a single form. The energy struck the archery target, and instead of burning or freezing or electrifying it, the target simply unmade itself. The material components separated into constituent atoms before reorganizing into something new, the wooden target transforming into a miniature cherry tree that blossomed instantly despite the season. Fascinating, Rias murmured, approaching the spontaneous creation. Not destruction in the conventional sense, but fundamental transformation. Chaos magic in its purest form, Akeno added, her scholarly interest evident. Breaking down existing patterns to create new possibilities. Issei stared at the cherry tree, as tarnished by what he'd unconsciously created. I didn't intend that specifically. I just released the energy. That's the difference between your power and conventional magic, Rias explained. Vil magic imposes the caster's will on reality. Your ability seems to introduce possibility itself, allowing reality to reconfigure according to potential rather than directed intent. Try again, Akeno suggested, indicating a steel plate, but this time, hold a general concept in mind without specifying exact details. Issei focused on the steel target, releasing another stream of chaotic energy. This time, he held the vague concept of defense in his thoughts. The steel plate shimmered, its molecular structure reorganizing into an intricate shield emblazoned with a symbol he recognized: F. Rom, his cosmic memories, the sigil of the primordial sage, a spiral pattern that simultaneously suggested both perfect order and perfect chaos. You're instinctively creating tools you need, Rias observed, examining the shield without touching it. The implications are significant. Terrifying, you mean, Akeno amended with characteristic bluntness. Creation ex nihilo is supposedly impossible except for beings of divine rank. Issei approached the shield cautiously. When his fingers touched the surface, he felt a resonance. The object recognized him as its creator, responsive to his will. It's not exactly creation from nothing, he explained, understanding flowing from his expanding awareness. More like revealing what could exist from what already does. Everything contains potential for transformation. The training continued through the morning, Issei discovering new applications for his chaotic energy with each experiment. He could transform matter, manipulate probability, accelerate or decelerate natural processes, and even temporarily alter localized physical laws. By midday, both Rias and Akeno appeared equally fascinated and concerned by the implications of his abilities. They paused for lunch in a pavilion overlooking a koi pond, the peaceful setting contrasting with the potentially world-altering powers they'd been exploring. Your progress is remarkable, Rias commented, sipping tea. In a single day, you've demonstrated capabilities that most supernatural beings never achieve in centuries. It's not really progress, Issei admitted, selecting an onigiri from the spread before them. More like remembering skills I already possessed. The distinction matters little from a practical standpoint, Akeno pointed out. What matters is how you intend to use these abilities. The question carried weight beyond simple training concerns. Both devils watched him carefully, aware that his answer would reveal much about his developing philosophy. To maintain balance, Issei said after careful consideration, Not by enforcing order or spreading chaos, but by ensuring neither dominates completely. He met their gazes directly. Order provides structure, stability, meaning. Chaos enables change, growth, possibility. Both are necessary. Rias nodded slowly, something like relief crossing her features. A measured approach. I had worried that I might become drunk on power. Issei finished with a wry smile. Decide to reshape reality according to my whims. It wouldn't be unprecedented, Akeno noted. Beings of significant power often lose perspective on the consequences of their actions. The human part of me helps, Issei explained. My connections to this world, family, friends, school, they anchor me in a way pure cosmic consciousness might not be. The admission seemed to reassure them both. Rias particularly appeared to relax, her diplomatic mask softening into genuine warmth. Speaking of connections, she said, setting down her teacup. There's something I've been meaning to discuss with you, Issei. Her tone shifted subtly, drawing his full attention. As heir to Rias Gremory, my life involves certain political considerations. She continued carefully. Arrangements made for the benefit of Devil Society rather than personal preference. She means her engagement, Akeno clarified, earning a sharp glance from Rias. To Riser Phoenix, Issei nodded, recalling the information from his dream library. An arranged marriage to strengthen ties between two noble houses. Surprise flickered across Rias's face. You know about that. I learned about it recently, Issei replied, unwilling to explain exactly how he'd acquired such personal information. Rias sighed, tension visible in her shoulders. Then you understand my position. While I respect the need for political alliances, Riser himself is. She hesitated, searching for a diplomatic term. An arrogant, womanizing peacock, Akeno supplied helpfully. Challenging. Rias settled on, shooting her friend another look. I've been seeking ways to nullify the arrangement without causing political upheaval. Issei processed this information, understanding the implications. And you think I might be useful in that regard? Rather than deny the assessment, Rias met his gaze directly. I won't pretend your awakening is the primordial. Sage doesn't present strategic opportunities. An alliance with a power that predates the Great War would strengthen my position considerably. Her honesty was refreshing, if somewhat calculating. I appreciate your directness, Issei said. What exactly are you proposing? Nothing immediately, Rias clarified. Riser has been increasing pressure for the marriage to proceed, but I've maintained delays through various means. I simply wanted you to understand the political context of our association. And to plant the seed of possible intervention, Akeno added with a knowing smile. RPR. A silent rarely reveals vulnerability without purpose. Rias flushed slightly at being so transparently read. Akeno exaggerates. I merely believe in informed allies. The conversation illuminated the complex web of politics surrounding their developing relationship. Rias sought his power as leverage against unwanted matrimony. He needed her knowledge and protection while navigating his awakening. A mutually beneficial arrangement based on aligned interests rather than pure altruism. Strangely, Issei found her pragmatism more trustworthy than false claims of disinterested friendship would have been. Devils were creatures of desire and ambition. Understanding Rias's motivations made their alliance clearer. I can't promise intervention in devil politics, he said carefully, but I value our developing friendship, Rias. If there's a way I can help that aligns with maintaining proper balance, I would consider it. Relief softened her aristocratic features. Thank you, Issei. That's all I can reasonably ask. The afternoon training session shifted focus to defensive applications of Issei's abilities. Creating barriers proved particularly compatible with his chaotic energy. Instead of structured shields that could be analyzed and countered, his defenses constantly shifted and adapted, incorporating any attack into their evolving patterns. Remarkable, Rias observed after her nth attempt to breach his protective field with destruction magic. The more energy I direct against it, the stronger it becomes. Like trying to put out a fire with gasoline, Akeno added, her HTNING similarly absorbed and repurposed by Issei's chaotic barrier. By evening, Issei had demonstrated combat applications that left both devils visibly impressed. His abilities lacked the refinement of their centuries-honed techniques but compensated with raw versatility and adaptability. You'll need practical experience to truly master these skills, Rias concluded as they finished the day's training. Theoretical knowledge only goes so far. Another stray devil hunt? Issei asked. Eventually, she confirmed. But first, recovery and integration. Your body and mind need time to adjust to the rapid expansion of your powers. Quote. She gestured toward the private hot springs at the edge of the compound. The waters here are infused with healing properties. They'll help stabilize your energy and accelerate recovery. An excellent suggestion, Akino agreed with suspicious enthusiasm. I believe I'll join you. Maintaining barriers all day has been quite taxing. Rias raised an eyebrow at her friend. I'm sure Issei would appreciate privacy for his first experience with our healing springs. Nonsense, Akino countered smoothly. As his magical instructor, I should monitor his energy stabilization process. Purely professional interest, of course. The exchange carried undercurrents Issei couldn't fully decipher, though he sensed some form of competition developing between the two devils regarding his attention. I don't mind company, he offered neutrally, unwilling to navigate the apparent tension. Rias sighed in resigned acceptance. Very well. The springs are divided by a bamboo screen for modesty. We'll meet you there in 20 minutes. As they separated to prepare, Issei reflected on the rapidly evolving dynamics between himself and Rias's peerage. What had begun as cautious assessment was developing into something more complex, alliance blending with friendship, professional interest with personal connection. The hot spring proved as therapeutic as promised. Issei sank into the steaming waters with a grateful sigh, feeling the day's exertions melt away. Mineral-rich water laced with subtle enchantments eased muscle fatigue while harmonizing his fluctuating energy patterns. From the other side of the bamboo screen came soft splashing sounds as Rias and Akino entered their section of the spring. Though the divider provided visual privacy, their voices carried clearly through the steam. You're being rather obvious, Akino, came Rias's amused comment. I'm simply showing appropriate interest in an unprecedented phenomenon, Akino replied innocently. The awakening primordial sage merits close observation. Is that what we're calling it now? Rias's tone carried affectionate exasperation. Just remember our agreement. Fair competition only, Akino confirmed. No using our positions or powers to gain unfair advantage. Issei froze in the water, realizing they were discussing him as though he were some prize to be won. The concept seemed absurd, too beautiful. Powerful devil women interested in a formerly ordinary human student. Yet his cosmic awareness perceived deeper currents beneath their light banter. Both recognized the significance of his awakening nature. Both were drawn to the power he represented, yes, but also to the unique perspective he offered, a viewpoint outside their factional divisions, a potential for understanding beyond conventional boundaries. Are you comfortable, Issei-kun? Akino called, her voice carrying a smile. The temperature can be adjusted if needed. It's perfect, he replied, trying to sound natural despite having overheard their conversation. Very relaxing. The waters help integrate magical energy, Rias explained. You should find your abilities more stable after soaking. She was right. As Issei relaxed in the healing spring, he could feel his chaotic energy settling into more accessible patterns without losing its fundamental nature. The human and cosmic aspects of his consciousness aligned more harmoniously, neither dominating the other. May I ask something personal? He ventured after several minutes of comfortable silence. Of course, Rias replied. Why are you both? He hesitated, unsure how to phrase the question delicately. Interested in you, Akino finished, amusement evident in her voice. Yes, Issei admitted. I mean, a week ago I was an ordinary high school student with no special qualities. The silence that followed suggested they were considering their answers carefully. Power attracts power, Rias said finally. That's the simple answer devils would give. But it's more complex than that. You represent something we've never encountered, Akino continued. A perspective outside our theological frameworks, beyond the divisions of angels, fallen, and devils. And on a personal level, Rias added more softly, there's something compelling about watching someone discover their true nature, especially when they handle that discovery with thoughtfulness rather than arrogance. The honesty in their responses touched Issei more deeply than he expected. Despite the supernatural politics surrounding their interaction, genuine connection was developing, a rare bridge across factional divides. Thank you, he said simply. For helping me through this transition. For being honest about your interests. It means more than I can express. The conversation drifted to lighter topics as they finished their soak. By the time Issei emerged from the spring, dressed in the yukata provided by the establishment, night had fallen completely. Rias and Akino waited in the compound's central garden, similarly attired in traditional garments. One last exercise before we return to town, Rias suggested, gesturing to the clear night sky above. Cosmic awareness. Quote. Issei followed her gaze upward, where stars blazed with unusual clarity, far from city lights. As he observed the celestial display, his perception automatic. Ally expanded. Seeing not just visible light but the full spectrum of radiation, the movement of celestial bodies, the very fabric of space-time curved around massive objects. Tell us what you see, Akino encouraged. Standing close enough that her shoulder brushed his. Everything, Issei breathed, overwhelmed by the vastness. The stars burning, planets turning, galaxies spinning. I can see patterns in the void between stars. Structures invisible to conventional perception. Rias joined them on his other side, her presence grounding him as his awareness expanded to potentially dangerous levels. Focus on a single star, she suggested. Contain your perception before it overwhelms you. Issei selected a particularly bright star, concentrating on it alone. Detailed information flooded his consciousness, its composition, age, the planets orbiting it, civilizations that had risen and fallen beneath its light. Life, he whispered. There's life around that star. Not like Earth's, but conscious, evolving. Akino and Rias exchanged significant glances over his shoulder. Your cosmic awareness extends beyond our solar system, Rias noted. Beyond what even experienced devils can perceive. The implications are profound, Akino added. If you can observe distant worlds, I can potentially affect them, Issei finished, the realization both exhilarating and terrifying. He forcibly narrowed his perception. Returning to normal human awareness with effort. But I won't. That level of interference would disrupt natural development. His restraint seemed to reassure both devils. Though their expressions remained thoughtful as they contemplated the scope of his expanding abilities. We should return, Rias decided. You've made exceptional progress today, but integration requires rest and reflection. The teleportation circle took them back to the Occult Research Club room, now dark and empty save for moonlight streaming through Gothic windows. The day's training had fundamentally altered Issei's understanding of his awakening powers, not just what he could do, but why such abilities existed in the first place. As they prepared to separate for the night, Rias paused. Tomorrow we'll continue with combat applications. Meet here after school, she hesitated, then added, and Issei. Thank you for trusting us with your development. I recognize there are many paths you could choose. The gratitude seemed genuine despite the political calculations undoubtedly running beneath the surface. Issei had come to appreciate this duality in his devil companions, the IR ability to pursue advantage while maintaining authentic connection. Thank you for guiding me, he replied simply. Akino escorted him home again, their walk proceeding in comfortable silence through the sleeping town. At his doorstep, she paused. Your nature will draw others to you, she said without preamble. Not just Rias and myself, but representatives from every faction. The primordial sage represents something all desire but none can fully control, the fundamental force of possibility itself. I'm beginning to understand that, Issei acknowledged. Choose your connections carefully, Akino advised. Her playful demeanor momentarily set aside for earnest counsel. But do choose. Isolation would be the greatest mistake for a being of your nature. Before he could respond, she leaned forward and pressed a kiss to his cheek, slightly closer to his lips than the previous night's farewell. Until tomorrow, Chaos Sage. She vanished in a flash of magical energy, leaving Issei ouching his cheek and contemplating her warning. As his awareness expanded, so too did his responsibility to forge appropriate connections. Not just for his benefit, but for the balance he was awakening to maintain. That night, he dreamed of crimson hair flowing like blood, of lightning dancing between elegant fingers, of forces converging around him like tributaries joining a river. In the cosmic library of his subconscious, new volumes appeared on previously empty shelves, books detailing possible futures, potential connections, paths toward balance in a world tipping dangerously toward perfect order. The primordial sage was awakening, not just to power but to purpose. And the supernatural world would never be the same. Chapter 2 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.